I don't know what you can see in the background, but it's probably a mess. I need to find a good background to sit in front of the camera to talk, to do my reading vlogs, because I don't want to sit in front of my vanity with all the makeup. Maybe I should do that. But yeah, I have read this baby. I always say that I will continue reading Crazy Rich Asians, but I think it is time to say I'm not interested in it at this moment, because I pick up other books over it multiple times. Oh my god, I can't even tell you guys. I'm just like, I'm not having it. I want a fluffy and funny and something read, but that's not it at the moment. I will rate it. I will just put it on my DNF for now list on my Goodreads, just so I know that I have started it and that I need to pick it up someday again. Like, yeah, tomorrow I will film my TBR for September, because I feel very inspired to do so. I'm very inspired to make this a book channel again, because I'm so inspired by books and by writing and by reading. Maybe it is time to go back to BookTube. There will be a makeup related video here and there, probably once a week, my makeup looks and stuff, but this is not the point. But I'm chatting here, so let's just finish that sentence. I will probably do makeup related content every now and then, probably, but at this point in time I'm finally enjoying reading again and talking about books, and I don't see why I shouldn't talk about it, you know. I watch mainly makeup channels, but I have like 5 or 6 booktubers that I really do enjoy, and those I watch, and I love to watch them quite a bit. And those are like quick watches, like I see them in my feed and I click on them almost instantly. They're not going on the to watch list. They are just, I need to watch them. I need to make an effort to watch them the day they are published, usually. So yeah, BookTube has me back. It has always been my biggest passion. If I would need to decide if I'd pick makeup or books, I would pick books. Because books have been the love of my life for 18 years. Almost 19, maybe almost 20. I am not quite sure. I just know that I think I have read the first Harry Potter when I was 11. So, and I have read books before that. I've read like those old school children books by Astrid Lindgren, my favorite author for children's books. Back to The Wicker King. Written by Kay and Crum. I wanted to come to the camera and talk about it way earlier, but then I was doing like 20 other things while reading this, and I basically forgot. What I have to say is, this is very different, like very different. This guy here, reminds me of Max Irons. I'm very sorry, but he does. There are like mixed media. We have arrest reports. We have like a CD with the songs on it. We have notes. We have drawings. We have photos. There is a lot. And at the beginning it's mostly white pages, then it turns more gray until it's black, and then it goes back to white. Like the last page is like double page is white. So it's very visually appealing. That's something to be noted. It's also written in very short, almost like notes. Like for example, we have this page. This is Carrie Ann, and this talks about Carrie Ann, who is a character in this book, and our protagonist talks about her. And yeah, that's it. That's his short thought about her, and that's how it goes on. Like, they are always very short, and that way it feels raw. There is not much fluff around it. You don't have much unnecessary stuff. If you know what I mean. It's this way of writing. This feels like a teenage boy. This really feels like a teenage boy. This feels like this is a weird what I'm going at, but I started reading this and those short pages, and I was getting the picture of Jughead Jones, Riverdale, you know. But Jughead Jones writes stories like real books, so it's not that good of a example, or you know. But yeah, it's written in those snippets, and at first you like the beginning is you get to know that those two guys, August and Jack, are being arrested, and that they are going to a psychiatric hospital, and you know it's because of fire, but you don't know how this happened, what happened exactly. And then you suddenly go back. You go back in time. Like, this is 2003. This black page is the time in the psychiatric hospital, and then you go back. You go back, you get to know August, you get to know Jack, you get to know their friends and their circles, school. And it's all from August's perspective. And yeah, you basically, from that point on, you get to know how they ended up in this psychiatric hospital. And there's a lot. There were snippets and notes and pieces that are very, very important. And there are some you don't really know why they're in there. That's why it really feels like this could have been written by a teenage boy. Because sometimes you don't even know this is Jack and August as children, so they are friends for a very, very long time. And the style is very important because you, as I said, those two black pages, 2003, this is psychiatric hospital, and then you go back to white and they turn grayer and grayer and grayer over time. Sometimes it's really difficult to read, and you have like those hashtags all over the sides, and sometimes it's really hard to read. The titles of each note sometimes are very, you don't know where this word is coming from. Sometimes they're weird, sometimes you don't even know what it means, what you're getting yourself into. And yeah, then all those black pages are when they're in the psychiatric hospital. And since I won't be able to spoiler or anything in a recent reads, I won't spoiler much or anything. It's just that I want to talk about the fact that this is about friendship. This is about a boy's friendship since forever, and it's an unlikely friendship because they don't walk the same crowds at school, and but you feel there is something between them, and there is something very rare between them, and it's very, very destructive. It's very unhealthy. It's almost toxic, to be real. And I love how the author even says it, like at the back notes from the author, that those boys suffer from negligent parents, and that they try to handle very, very difficult issues on their own because they don't trust the adults in their lives to take care of them and not destroy everything. And that's a very difficult and very, very important issue, because that is also a thing when you watch teenage movies, teenage TV shows about high school experiences. It's a main topic in so many coming of age stories, that the problems teenagers have are often very, very difficult and very difficult to handle, and the adults in their life either don't see it or ignore it, or when they notice it, they handle it in a way that teenagers feel like they don't trust the adults in their lives anymore, because they do it in a way that's frightening to them, or it destroys trust a lot of the times. And here you have this as well. A very, very difficult topic, because Jack, over the course of time, suffers from hallucinatory hallucinations, hallucinatory disorder, he sees things and his life gets very difficult because he can't really say if things are real or not, if they really are in this world, or if he only sees them. He doesn't see things that are in his real world, and he bumps against things and hurts himself. And 100%, if those boys went to a school counselor, the first thing wouldn't be, you want to talk about this. It would be, I'm calling the hospital. And that is often the right thing to do, because you're being a responsible adult. And you know this is a difficult thing. This is something serious. It could be something serious, and you want to help. But oftentimes adults act in a way that teenagers just don't like, and find very rushed, or like they're taking away my say, my word, like they're acting for me. They are not, this is my life and they're deciding for me. And I feel like that is why we see in YA novels, in coming of age stories, in high school stories, why it is a big topic that high schoolers, teens, young adults hide things from their parents, from adults in their life, because they don't trust them to handle those things in a way they can understand it, in a empathetic way. And this is what happens here. August and Jack handle it on their own, without telling adults, knowing it is wrong, getting themselves in such dangerous moments that there so many things could have gone wrong here, just because they didn't trust the adults in their life. And I think that's a very important topic to discuss. This is a very important topic to talk about. And this really had me fascinated. The relationship they had fascinated me. I was rooting for them, although I know that their relationship is just not healthy. It's so unhealthy that it got them in a psychiatric hospital. And you're still rooting for them because they're kids and they've gone through so much together, and you're rooting for them. And it's the weirdest read of the year so far, for sure. Like, it gets weirder and weirder, and they're codependent, and you just know, oh my god, people, you're getting yourself in the biggest danger you have ever been in your life. But you understand, and you feel them, and you feel for them. And when they're in this psychiatric hospital and they are not allowed to see each other, you're like, this is devastating. All of this is devastating. This is sad. This is anxious. It's, I don't know. And this Wicker King theme, it's a game they used to play. Jack was the Wicker King, and it was like a fantasy game. It was about chivalry and duels and things in the wood and the river, and they were playing, and and he's still the Wicker King. There's still this fantasy element to it, that he pretends to be the Wicker King, and August acts like he is his champion, his knight. And it's a very weird way to describe their relationship, like how they really are connected, how their lives are intertwined. It's a very interesting read. And although those are so short and those are only snippets, it took me quite a bit because this was so difficult to handle, especially when you get to know why Jack has those hallucinatory thing happening and you're like, oh my god, this could have gone so wrong. And it was also one of the most beautiful reads. I have said that Black Flamingo was an amazing read. This and Black Flamingo. Such beautiful young adult novels, both written in very different ways than usual fiction. Those notes and Black Flamingo in poetry, in verse, both beautiful. The next thing I will read, and I'm pretty sure of it that I will read it, I picked it up, is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Jodie Meadows and Brody Ashton, because I want to read all those Lady Janies, because next year there will be the Mary series, starting with Mary Queen of Scots. Honorary Mary, I think, will be the title, and I want to read My Lady Jane because I have watched so many documentaries on Tudor time and on all the queens that Henry VIII had, and I'm fascinated by Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn. I'm very fascinated by those two. I'm also very fascinated by Catherine Parr, who is connected to Lady Jane Grey. I have watched 2 documentaries on Lady Jane Grey. Those were it was 10 hours worth of material I watched about the night and day queen, and I'm very excited to read a satirical book, novel, historical fiction piece about her. I heard there are horses. I don't mind horses. I'm very excited. Very excited. I need to pick up more of the books that my family got me for my birthday, so I need to read more of those. I just need to. I also am so excited to read Beach Read, but I have said that I would read at least one of the books my sister and my mom got me, because they are like, you don't read our books, you only read the others. And then I will maybe, hopefully, get to Beach Read, because it sounds just so perfect. So perfect. So yeah, I will probably check in tomorrow. Tonight I don't think I will start reading My Lady Jane, but tomorrow. Since I'm sitting already here filming, I thought I would check back in with you guys. I have started reading My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton and Jodie Meadows, a collaboration project, and the first book in the Lady Janies, Little Janies, Lady Janies series, which is a 3-part series starting with My Lady Jane, continuing with My Plain Jane, and ending with Calamity Jane. This is about Lady Jane Grey, the 9-day queen, cousin to King Edward, Mary Tudor and Elizabeth Tudor. And this is the not entirely true story. So I have to say I was really enjoying myself for the first 3 chapters I have read. 3 chapters? Yes. It's multi-perspective, which I really like. We read about Edward, the king, that is the king. And it's very humorous, like there's a lot of jokes. Like he gets to know that he will die, then he will die young, and he's like, shit, I wanted to kiss girls with tongue. And I'm sitting there giggling like an idiot, because I'm like, your magician tells you you're dying young, and you're like, I wanted to kiss girls with tongue. That's all you're thinking about. Priorities. Then we also got to know Jane, who gets to know that she is about to marry Guilford Dudley, who is the son of the Duke of Norfolk, who was one of the members of King Edward's Privy Council. And here they took a very interesting, funny approach on the whole Catholic and Protestant conflict, because in this book it's not religion, it's verities and Athenian, which are people who can transform into animals. And the verities think that those people are monsters and are only good when they're dead, basically. And the verities are Catholics, and the Athenian people are Protestants. That's what reality was, because Mary Tudor is not a fan of the Athenians, and Edward and Jane and also Elizabeth are both the other side. And it's a very humorous approach. It's a very interesting approach. It's a way to describe religious conflict in a way that makes you feel like, oh my god, how stupid. And Jane is about to marry one of those Athenians, one of this Guilford Dudley guy, the son of the Duke of Norfolk, actually turns into a horse and is a horse the entire day until sun goes down, and then he turns back into a human being, and she doesn't know it yet. And we also get to know Guilford, who doesn't feel like he belongs in his family and is feeling very unimportant because he's the second son. He also is a horse. Like, how can... Who would want a horse, right? He's like joking around about, like, not really joking, but his mom was saying like, which wife will, like, what kind of woman will want half a man, half horse? And yeah, now they're trying to set him up with Jane, because they want to put Jane on the throne, or put the child of Jane Grey on the throne. For that, she needs to marry, and she needs to marry Guilford because he has royal blood. His family is important. He has this magical ability to transform into a horse. So he's obviously a very great catch. So it's hilarious. I'm gonna read in a bit. I'm gonna continue because so far so good. I'm very curious to see what this will do to keep my attention. So far we are very far away from Jane being crowned queen. I don't even know if this even talks about her being the 9-day queen at all, or if it's like just leading up to that moment. But yeah, very interesting for sure. I will check back in with you guys once I have continued. I have finished My Lady Jane and I need to talk about it. Especially since I read a review on Goodreads yesterday evening after I finished it that really made me furious. That review is along the lines of those reviews on Douglas I have talked about, or on Sephora. You buy a full coverage foundation and then you complain it's a full coverage foundation. This person picked this book apart by all the things that were special to this book because of the kind of this book and was complaining about them for 6, 7, 8 paragraphs, and I was like, you obviously didn't understand. When you pick up a book and it says not the entirely true story, and in the beginning there is like the authors telling you that this is obviously not historically accurate and that they are making it more funny and whatnot, funnier, and you complain about it being not serious, I don't understand. It's like I would be reading a sci-fi and then complaining it is a sci-fi. If I know, I pick up, like, you had to know that this was what it was because it tells you that it is what it is. You could have stopped after that prologue of the authors telling you that they would include shapeshifters and make the characters more like caricatures. It was meant to be that way. This person complained about Jane being annoying and only thinking about books, which is the point of caricatures. Like, you take the strongest, most prominent traits and you exaggerate them to the moon. I'm very sorry for this person that obviously he didn't understand it, or she didn't understand that. I'm actually very sorry because I'm like, I understand if people say this is just not the type of book I would like to read, and I tried it, I didn't like it. That's totally fine, that's totally understandable, but rating a book low because the book is the way the book is, even though it tells you how it is, I really don't understand. Like, this book tells you from the beginning, this is a satire, this is not meant to be taken seriously, take it with a grain of salt, and you pick it apart like it is some kind of important piece of literature. That's not the point, person. I don't even remember the name of that person. I was very, very annoyed because I wouldn't, like, if I read a book and from the beginning I knew I wasn't sure if I would like something like that, of course I would rate it low in the end and be like, well, this is not for me. This is the reason why it's not for me. But the book didn't pretend to be something else, you know? Like, this book didn't pretend to be historically accurate. It didn't pretend to be serious. It didn't pretend to be classic literature. Like, the book itself tells you not to take it seriously, and you're taking it seriously. I don't understand. Okay, so enough about this review, because I will get very, very fueled up and I don't like that. By the way, do you like my makeup look? Because I like it. I feel very sexy. I will probably continue reading that series. I have had a very, very difficult time getting into this book. Like, I liked the first 3 chapters that I read, but I wasn't like compelled to pick it up again. And then I found the amazingly narrated, read audiobook on Scribd, My Lady Jane. Here it is. This person who has who has read this is a genius, and I got into the story way easier hearing her read it to me. Like, I needed around 10 chapters, then I was so invested in the story that I decided to skip the audiobook and went ahead and read it physically. Like, the last chapters, like 20 chapters, I read yesterday evening because I was already so invested in it. But the beginning was a bit tough, I have to admit. I will probably continue hearing the audiobooks because I don't own my Plain Jane and my Calamity Jane, but I have seen it's on Scribd, so why not listen to it? This is obviously the story of our beautiful Lady Jane Grey, who was the 9-day queen. And yes, Jane is annoying and she thinks about books in very weird situations. You would be like, I would feel for my death, but great that you're thinking about books. Makes sense. But that is the point of this book, you know. Just like Gifford was very annoying at times. Like, there was so much. Like, Jane married Gifford because Lord Dudley, the Duke of Northumberland, made them marry. He arranged the marriage so his son would be king, so he could control the king, basically influence him. And it was a very interesting take on history. And Gifford and Jane were both very annoying. They were very much like YA annoying kind of characters. But that was the point, and they were like very, very exaggerated annoying. Just like Edward, the actual king. they were all very like. The most annoying was Mary Tudor though, like this woman. I'm already not a big fan of Mary Tudor in actual English history. I am not about the life of burning heretics. Like, I understand, like back in the day, she thought she was doing the right thing because she believed that Catholics are the only true, that Catholicism is the only true religion, and she was freeing those heretics of their sins and making sure they could find God and whatnot, and that she had to free the land from all of those heretics, that it was her godly mission. I understand. It doesn't make her character more likable nonetheless, like, even though I know that historically it all makes sense. From a today's standpoint, I find her annoying and stupid, and yeah. But she was brought up this way. It was like, there was no way of her being more liberal. It would have been weird if she was. And in this book, she was pretty much made the villain, which I enjoyed because, as I said, I didn't like her, to be honest. When I read about the Tudor era or watch documentaries and stuff like that, she's always the one that I'm the most about. I like her mother, Catherine of Aragon, and I think her father divorcing her, getting rid of her mother, played a big role in her being the way she was. And yeah, I think there were a lot of things that played together, but nonetheless I enjoyed her being the villain here, just like the Duke of Northumberland. To me, poor Jane was the victim in history anyways, and she was the victim here, and Edward was a victim here, and I enjoyed reading that in that perspective because that's how I truly feel it probably was. Nobody knows exactly because we can't travel on time, but that's like my point of view. And so the book obviously took my side, which I pretty much enjoyed. I enjoyed the Ethian parts. Like, I really liked how they turned Catholics against Anglicans, Protestants, into verities against Ethians, with Ethians being shapeshifters and verities being people who think shapeshifters are abnormal and should be killed. I think it is a nice approach to change a religious conflict into something like that. It makes it more understandable and also more especially for teens, and this is a YA novel, it's easier to grasp than religious conflict, I think, because we have religious conflicts in our time, definitely, but I think this whole Catholics against Protestants is not quite up to date. Like, usually Protestants and Catholics get along in our time, unless you live in Ireland. So I think that it was a nice change and a good change to make, so young people can grasp the idea. I think it is a very humorous take of a very interesting and very not many people know about of Lady Jane Grey and her 9 days as the Queen of England. So it brings attention to her story, and I will say this like I always say when I talk about the TV shows Reign or the Tudors. They were not historically accurate, but that doesn't mean they don't do anything to their audience. Like, you watch those TV shows and you read that book, and you're like, now I want to know more about that. And that is exactly what happened back in the day when I watched the Tudors for the first time. People always complain that it is not is historically accurate, and I understand, but usually when you watch something like that, you start to be curious, and then you actually read about it and you find out the truth, and it helps you be more educated, even if it wasn't educating you the best way, because it was not historically accurate, but it makes you feel like you want to be educated on that topic, unless you're absolutely not interested in the topic afterwards, so that can happen too. But you at least usually know the names of people and stuff, and that can definitely help. So I think this brings attention to Lady Jane Grey, who is often forgotten, I think, especially as a Queen of England. Like, people know about Mary, they know about Elizabeth, but who knows that Jane was Queen? Like, I feel a lot of people don't know that. And while this is satirical and absolutely not correct in any shape or form, it gives you the base idea. Like, they tell you about people you didn't know existed, and give you some information. And if you're interested in it, you can check it up, you can search. There's Wikipedia and there's Google, and there are documentaries on YouTube on Lady Jane Grey and on Mary Tudor and on Elizabeth Tudor. So if you're interested, you can always educate yourself, like really educate yourself. So that is that. Yeah, so those are like my pending thoughts on My Lady Jane. I think the next book I will pick up is actually Wilder Girls. I wanted to read the love montage, or what was that called? Falling in Love montage. That sapphic YA novel. But I think I want to read Wilder Girls because I'm in the mood for something creepy, something, you know. So that will be picked up, and I will talk to you guys about that once I have started and have some thoughts. Yesterday I finished reading Wilder Girls. I was actually about to head on and like midway through the book talk about it a bit to the camera, but then I was like, I need to read. So now we are talking about Wilder Girls, a book that I have finished now. So we are set on an island near the main coast as far as I remember, and this island, this small little island, has an all-girls school which is called Rexter School for Girls. And for the last 18 months the girls are on quarantine. They're not allowed to leave the island, they're not allowed to leave the school grounds, even though they are smaller to the island than the school grounds. And that is because a unknown disease has formed among the girls and has killed almost every teacher on this island, and has caused the girls to get flare-ups and form malfunctions, and some of them like grown new bones, some of them have like scales on their arms. One of the girls goes blind on one eye. It's like they form very different kinds of problems. Those flare-ups form problems, and a lot of the girls don't survive those flare-ups. Some of them die, and over those 18 months a lot of girls and also the teachers have died, but they are still believing that there's help out there, that the Navy and the government is trying to find a cure for that, what they are calling the tox. It's not only affecting the girls, but also the wildlife on this island. Also the animals are infected, and yeah, we follow Hetty, who is our main character in here, who is part of like a 3-person clique forming out of her and Bayet and Reese, who were in the same year, and they are now like, the girls form groups in which they like socialize, if that makes any sense. And it's basically like starting to get very different for them, because like the girls are also, they also have like different kinds of tasks to do, and there is the task of the boat shift, and Hetty gets to be on that boat shift, which really makes her friendship with Reese go, yeah, it's hitting that friendship quite hard, because Reese is one of the girls who really wanted to go on the boat shift because her father was on that island, and he just left, and she wants to know where he is, and she isn't allowed to leave the grounds unless she's on the boat shift, because the boat girls are allowed outside the fence and outside the grounds, because they're going every other night or whatever. It's not really classified, like specified how often they go. They go to the pier and bring resources to the girls back at the school, like food and medicine and whatever. And Hetty gets that job on that boat shift, and Reese is very mad at her, and that makes the friendship very tense. And then one day Bayet gets another flare-up is brought to the infirmary, and Hattie figures out that Bayard is gone suddenly, and she doesn't know where she's gone, where they have brought her, and she tries to figure out what happened. And we follow Hattie and Reese, who are trying to figure out where Bayard is, and we also follow Bayard, who is in in another place where people are like basically testing and trying to find out what the tox is and what it does and if they can cure it. Those were a lot of informations, and a lot of that was spoilery, so but I don't feel like any of those informations are like really spoilery because it's told that Bayard has gone missing, and yeah, I don't think that any of this is like a real spoiler. The thing is, this book has done a lot of things that were great. The description of the injuries and the flare-ups and all the gory, disgusting horror kind of things were very good, well placed, and I didn't feel like it was just meant for shock value. I think they really had a place in the story. I also feel like the description of the bonds between the girls were very, very well done. I feel like you could really feel how they all needed each other, but they were also ready to like rip each other's eyes out for a can of soup, basically. At first I was a bit worried that it would be too much for me, because the first like 50 pages, a lot of things were described where I was like, oh, I don't know if I like that. But it was the beginning. I think the author wanted us to know the specifics and everything, and the further you went into it, I think the less not like it's still describing things like that, the flare-ups and all the parts that happen to all the things that happen to the girls that are like weird and maybe disgusting. But it felt like it was very well picked where she was explaining those things to us. What I also really liked was the fact that there were like a few twists and turns you weren't expecting, or maybe you were expecting. I wasn't, because I didn't feel like with such books I'm not used to twists and turns. I feel like they go gradually, and when you suddenly there is a plot twist and you're like, what? I expect twists and turns in mysteries and thrillers, not in horror, sci-fi, whatever thing that is. It's weird. It's queer for sure. Like, the girls are among girls, there are no guys over there, and we have queer representation here for sure. So, but it's not like a major plot point, but it helps the story, I think. It really does help the story, because the girls obviously are alone and they all need like somebody to lean on, somebody to rely on, and it makes the story a lot more human, I would say. I think it was very well done. What I didn't like as much was the characters itself. I feel like I could distinguish them from one another for sure, but I feel like it was the weakest point in this entire book. Especially our main character, Hattie, was at times very bland and she didn't stick out much, and I felt like she was like, you know, like she's one of those main characters who just blend in. I get it. I get why she's that way, and I understand. But it is a weak spot for sure. Like character design wasn't like the best here, but it wasn't bad. I have read way worse character descriptions and character developments and stuff. It's just like it could have been a tiny bit better, would have made this book even more amazing. For me, this is like a book that is like a solid 3.5, but more a 4-star than a 3-star, because it did a lot of things that I appreciated, and that is why I have ranked it 4-star on Goodreads rather than 3, but it is a 3.5 for me. Next I'm gonna jump into Tweet Cute because I want something cute. We shall see if I can finish that one a bit quicker than My Lady Jane. That has taken me so long, and I'm like so behind on my TBR. Let's see. I will see you guys in the next little bit of vlog material. Tweet Cute will be the last book I will talk to you guys about in this reading vlog, because this reading vlog is already like an hour long and I don't want it to make like 2 hours. So I have just started Tweet Cute, so I just want to talk to you guys about the first like 30 pages or so, because I have thoughts. So Tweet Cute is written by Emma Lord, and it is about Pepper and Jack, who are both attending the same prestigious New York City school that is like, it makes Blair Waldorf and Chuck Bass's schools look like public schools, to be honest. And Pepper is the daughter of the founder of Big League Burger. Something like that. BLB is the short. So she's the daughter of the founder of this massive fast food chain, basically. They are going international now, and she is helping her mom with the Twitter account for their company, because she's very good at it. She's like super snarky and stuff, so she makes it fun, you know. And and there is this boy, Jack, as I said, who is the son of, like, he has a twin brother, and his parents own this deli. Is this called deli or is this deli? I think it's deli. Which is very, like, it's located in New York, and they're like, their customers, they come there for ages, so they know everyone who comes there, and they have this special grilled cheese recipe. And suddenly this big company from Pepper's mom is sneak peeking their 3 new grilled cheeses that they will get on their menus, and one is called the same as this famous grilled cheese from his parents, and they also have like key ingredients to their grilled cheese recipe in that grilled cheese. So a small Twitter war starts between them. Also, those two communicate on a chatting app for this school. Like Jack came up with this chat, this app, for all the students for the school. And he made it so that people could stay anonymous. So he's chatting with Pepper anonymously, privately, and they like each other and they are like befriending one another, while in real life they have this Twitter war going on, and also they're not like super friendly in school. So it's like, it has the premise of enemies to lovers, which everyone who knows me knows I love. Enemies to lovers is like my favorite trope in books, basically. Like in romance stuff, enemies to lovers is my favorite trope. Period. So I'm already very much into the story, to be honest. I'm like 30 pages in and I'm like, okay, you have me. It's very fun. I like Pepper. She's indeed Starkey, but she seems to be very like, they came from Nashville and she was like having a lot of cowboy boots and was like nothing like the other people in her new school, and she adjusted just to not be eaten by the student body, and now she's like everyone else. And Jack has noticed that she used to be different and now she's not anymore, and now she's like just everyone else, and he notices that. And it's very fun to see their bickering in the very, like, I think it's the 3rd chapter or something. They sat next to each other and he thinks the worst of him and she is mean to him in return, and it's funny. It's really funny. I'm very interested to see how things will go between the two, if they will keep this enemy thing going for a while, or if it will very quickly develop into, oh, we actually like each other. Because that is something that I'm like, this is a pet peeve of mine when it comes to enemies to lovers. Like, when you have a trope like that, you need to make it good. There needs to be a good pacing, and there needs to be a good like development in their friendship, in them being less of enemies and more friends and then lovers. Unless we have this like enemy sexual tension. You know when just listen. This is the best I can describe this, because I feel like this scene just was everything enemies to lovers wise. For all the people who watch Vampire Diaries or the originals or both, Klaus and Caroline, I didn't ship them, like really ship them, but when she was mad at him and they screamed at each other basically, and then she was like, we need to get this off of our chests, and then they suddenly kiss each other and he presses her against the tree and we know what happens, This is like those very enemies energy that turns into sexual energy, which is all fine with me. That's actually something I really, really, really like. That was also one thing that I really enjoyed about Gossip Girl in the beginnings, when Chuck and Blair were still more enemies than friends and started going to bed with one another, and they were like, most of the time they had like this enemies, we are arguing, but there's sexual tension. that was perfect. That I liked. And if it goes that direction, I can, okay, but I don't believe that because I think it's YA. So, but yeah, back to enemies to lovers and the pacing of the relationship. If on one page they are hating on each other and having this Twitter war, and like 2 pages later they are like, oh, maybe you're not that bad, then I'm not into it. You will see. So I'm very curious to see if it's one or the other. I hope it's good. I really hope. I will go back to reading in a second, I think, because I'm very... Yes. So I will talk to you guys once I have a few more thoughts. Hi. New angle, new room. I forgot to do the last check-in in my reading vlog. I have finished Tweet Cute, and I just want to wrap up my thoughts so I can finally finish the reading vlog. So, Tweet Cute. Tweet Cute is about Pepper and Jack, who, but I already explained this, I think. But yeah, Pepper and Jack and their friendship, how it began, the friendship, and how a Twitter feud started between them. I have to say that I really enjoyed my time. It was cute. It was fun. What I really appreciated was that for a YA romance contemporary thing, there weren't as many, like, you know, there are usually like misunderstandings and everything, and it gets all dramatic. In this, there were misunderstandings, but they almost immediately were resolved by talking to one another, and that's something you don't find a lot in YA, in romance in general. There's always like a misunderstanding and those people don't talk for like weeks, and then at some point they finally realize it was a misunderstanding. And in this book this didn't happen. It was always resolved in a few hours. It was great, because if you talk to one another you don't have as many misunderstandings. So it was cute. It was definitely worth the time. I read it in like 2 days. It was good. So this is like the final wrap up for the reading vlog, which is so far an hour. I need to edit it down a bit, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed my reading vlog, and if you did, like and comment. I would love that. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.